For those who just tuned in, you are listening to Econo Chat. Let's talk business with Mr. Daniel Steinman on your power station. We have been talking about COP27. That is, of course, what do they call it, Mr. Daniel Steinman?
Conference of the Parties.
Yeah, because some people would just be asking, what are they talking about? Police, like COP? But we are talking climate change. We are talking about, how the Western world would be financing Africa in order to deal with climate change, how we are affected. But of course, Mr. Daniel Steinman, failure to mitigate.
You see, this is the whole thing that the West has not come to terms with yet. And that is that there are no second options.
Yeah.
It's either we address climate change and we agree on it, and the developed world assists the African continent to finance what's necessary, or eventually we're all dead. In 50 years from now.
Yeah.
Then because, just to give you an example, 2 or 3 years ago in Baghdad, there was a summer temperature for a week. Every afternoon it went above 50 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
And these massive sandstorms. And I mean, this is unreal. I know of only one place in Namibia where it sometimes go to 50 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, and that's at Noordoever, at the Orange River.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been there myself when it was 50 degrees Celsius, but fortunately it didn't carry on for a week and not the whole day, but it's very hot. And from experience here, we live in a hot, dry country.
Yeah.
If it goes 38, 39, it starts getting not so lekker.
Yeah.
If it goes 40, 41, 42, it's really unpleasant.
Yeah.
So can you imagine 50 degrees Celsius? And the point of all of this is that nobody can escape it.
Yeah.
But who's causing it? Not us. Like I said earlier, 2% of the world's pollution is generated by economies in Africa. But we are disproportionately big and we are disproportionately affected.
Yeah.
So it is not an if or a when, it is just a matter of how are we going to channel the funding to Africa to make sure that we start with these projects on a continental scale to mitigate the effect, the impact of climate change. And this is where I just want to offer a few opinions in our last few minutes.
Okay.
And that is that because of the size of the continent. Remember I said few people actually realize how big Africa is. We are very big. Because of the size of the continent, it is unrealistic to think we are going to put up this electricity grid in 10 years that covers the whole continent.
Yeah.
The solution probably will be off-grid or hybrid off-grid regional grid. So whether it's solar or wind or tidal, the old notion of generating megawatts of electricity and then transporting it for thousands of kilometers to wherever is needed, I think that model is dying a slow death because of the size of the continent.
Yeah.
You see, every time we come back to reality, we run up against this impediment, and that impediment is the continent is massive.
Yeah.
And the people who are not African don't realize this.
They don't. They don't.
So, and when I talk to them, I first take a globe, a round picture of the earth, and I show them. I said, people, come look here. Your own eyes are deceiving you. the others are not so big. The big continent is Africa. And then they start getting an idea of the enormity of the problems we face. And then I'm very fond of throwing around these statistics of what we contribute and the funding that's available, and because of the large size of the continent, that it's impossible to put up an electricity grid to cover the whole continent. That will take 200, 300 years. So we're looking at alternatives.
Yeah.
And off-grid electricity generation is one of them.
Yeah.
Alternative energy, solar, tidal, wind is another key component. There's only just one catch. And with all of these, you only have electricity as long as the sun is shining, or the wind is blowing, or the tide is coming in, you know. So the point I'm trying to make is, do not be deceived into thinking that there are easy, quick fixes.
Yeah.
They are not. And the long-term solutions, if we look at 50-year and 100-year solutions, which is the way that we should plan for our development, those are very expensive.
Yeah.
And at this point, we don't have the money. But it brings us back to that fundamental point I made in the beginning. We did not cause the problem.
Yes, definitely not.
So it means that the funding has to come from the countries that are the source of the most pollution.
Yeah.
You know, and I can tell you, we're going to have a few more COPs before we actually get to an agreement like Cancun in Mexico about 14, 15 years ago, I think, you know, where there was a substantial number of agreement between the world leaders on which way we must go.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not going to happen at COP27, sorry to say, but it will have to happen in the next 5 years or so, you know, otherwise we're all going to be toast.
Yeah, definitely we will be if we don't work towards making this work for Africa. But I'm actually, Mr. Daniel Steinman, very happy. It doesn't often happen where African leaders actually come together and speak one voice, and I've realized at the COP27 that they have come together with guns to say that you will do this and you will fix this, that we do not suffer more than you guys, because we are not the problem, we are not the source. But in any way, guys, thank you so much for keeping it locked to the Power Station. You will have to go do your own research on climate change, and please do take it serious, because it is happening every day of our lives. We are affected by climate change, and let's stop with the saying that climate change is not real, because it is real. On that note, have yourself a blessed day.